Okay, let's look at the following problems. Adding two complex numbers is just like adding like terms in algebra. So here, 3i and 7i is 10i, and 5 and negative 3 is 2. Subtracting is just like subtracting in algebra. Remember, in algebra though, if we have a negative in front of parentheses, we have to distribute it. So the 3i becomes negative, and the negative 7 becomes a positive 7 when we distribute the negative all the way through that second set of parentheses. Now we add like terms. 2i and negative 3i is negative I, and 5 and 7 is 12. All right, now to multiply this, we're going to FOIL it out just like we FOIL in normal algebra. 6i and 3i is 18i squared. 6i and minus 4 is minus 24i. 2 times 3i is 6i. And 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. Now, let's continue to simplify. Remember that I squared is negative 1. We can add the negative 24i and 6i, that is negative 18i. Let's finish simplifying. 18 times negative 1 is negative 18. And now I can add together the negative 18 and the negative 8 to make negative 26 minus 18i. All right, now to divide, we don't want to leave i's in the bottom of any fraction. So to get rid of this I that's in the bottom, all we have to do is multiply by I over I. All right, so let's notice that gives me a 12i on the top and 6i squared on the bottom. Now, I know that I squared can be rewritten as negative 1. So really, this is 12i over negative 6. 12 divided by negative 6 is negative 2, and we still have our I. All right, now, when there are two terms in the bottom of the fraction, as there is here, in order to get rid of those, what we want to do is multiply by the conjugate. The conjugate is the same thing that's in the bottom here, except the sign in the middle is the opposite. So the conjugate of 3i plus 2 is 3i minus 2. Had this been a 3i minus 2, its conjugate would have been 3i plus 2. But in this case, our conjugate is 3i minus 2. We're going to multiply both the bottom and the top by that. All right, now on the top, we're going to FOIL this out, just like we FOILed out in our third problem above. 6i times 3i is 18i squared. 6i times minus 2 is minus 12i. Negative 1 times 3i is negative 3i. And negative 1 times negative 2 is positive 2. We're going to do the same thing on the bottom. 3i times 3i is 9i squared. 3i times negative 2 is negative 6i. 2 times 3i is positive 6i. And 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Now let's simplify. On the top, I can put a negative 1 in place of I squared. Negative 12i and negative 3i is negative 15i. And I still have the 2. On the bottom, 9i squared, I can put my negative 1 in. Negative 6 and positive 6i cancel out, and I still have negative 4. And now I have negative 18 minus 15i plus 2. On the bottom, negative 9 minus 4. And now negative 18 plus 2 is negative 16 minus 15i. And on the bottom, I have negative 13. Now, I can break this up into two separate fractions. Negative 16 over negative 13 and negative 15i over negative 13. And the first one, the negatives cancel to give us a positive. And in the second one, the same thing happens. The negatives cancel to give us a positive. And there's our answer.